The Lakers recently traded for Russell Westbrook, which, being that it is the Lakers and it is Russell Westbrook, has meant that, well, there's been some conversation. And had I nothing unique to say at this point, now a week since the trade had happened, I probably wouldn't have made a video. However, with all the negativity we have seen sprout up from this move, I've actually come out on the other side of this thinking that not only is this not a bad move, but a potentially great one, and that's clearly not the popular opinion right now. And I'm excited to tell you why I feel this way, so let's just get into it. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then please subscribe. I am trying to hit 200k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. The purpose of this video is to focus on why I don't think people should be so down on this trade as many are. So let's talk about why people are down on this move. What's the big reason to be hesitant about this trade? Well, spacing. Yeah, that's it, spacing. Russell Westbrook is statistically the worst volume three-point shooter the game has ever seen, and when you pair that with the fact that the Lakers' biggest flaw by a country mile is three-point shooting, well, you could see how that makes people scratch their heads with this move. The Lakers quite literally went into the offseason with shooting at the top of their priority list and ended up with Russell Westbrook as their big trade. It doesn't really make sense. It's like needing to sleep, so you shotgun 5 Red Bulls, or needing good basketball analysis and you watch Rusty Buckets. But as true as the shooting problem may be, as awkward as the fit could potentially be, I feel like quite a bit of this hesitance in the move comes from 2 things. First of all, Russell Westbrook is really fucking good, and people tend to forget that. The Lakers' good fit or bad fit landed a top 20 player in the league in exchange for 1 actually good role player and a late first round pick. Sure, the contract and age makes that not actually the steal it would otherwise appear to be, but in terms of talent, the Lakers could not have gotten more bang for their buck. The other thing that makes people hesitate on this move is something that I don't want to say out loud because it's going to make me sound like an old head, but regardless, it's true. It's the belief that the 3-ball is the end-all be-all of the game. Don't get me wrong, it's extremely important, but I think the Bucks, just having won the championship shooting 32% from 3 for the entire playoffs, with their opponents in every round shooting better from outside, should be evidence of the fact that you don't have to live and die by the 3 to be successful. Don't abandon it, don't even attempt to abandon it, but if you can take a little bit of a hit in that area, but then improve in other areas as a result, especially if you can then address that problem later, I think it's absolutely worth it. Getting a little bit worse at shooting, but getting a lot better at a lot of other things is not a bad decision. Oh, and about addressing that weakness, addressing shooting, well, they did exactly that, which everyone and their mother on Twitter freaked out about, and I really didn't understand that because, like, obviously they were going to do that. It's the Lakers, it's LeBron, it's a chance at a championship. Obviously there would be a handful of players willing to sign up for that at a discount. Pretty much all these signings, other than like Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn, were things that I fully expected and am not even remotely surprised by. I don't know why it surprised people at all. But now let's talk logistically about the fit here with this roster now assembled. The projected starting lineup is Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Anthony Davis. I could very well see it being Trevor Ariza instead of Melo because of defense and a willingness to buy in offensively, and Dwight Howard will likely start a lot at the 5 in the regular season for the sake of Anthony Davis's health, but regardless, you get the picture. With that lineup, you have 2 guys who shoot 40% from 3 on a high volume. LeBron, who I'd say is around an average 3-point shooter at this point in his career, if inconsistent, and AD at center, who is not a good 3-point shooter, but he also isn't a complete non-shooter either, and I wouldn't expect teams to just outright leave him open. The spacing on this team is passable, and passable is not ideal, but it's passable. It's not the best, but the Lakers won a championship with passable spacing a year ago. The Bucks, as I previously mentioned, just did the same. So if you excel in other areas, you can overcome a bit of a weakness. And the thing about this Westbrook move is that when you consider the additions they made afterwards, I think their shooting remains a problem as it already was, but not an outright detriment. And while remaining at that level of a not great status quo isn't the best, they did elevate pretty much every other area of the roster. Sure, did Russ make the shooting for this team better? Of course not, but I don't think that he made it really notably worse after considering this team's additions, which sure, it's not good to remain not that great, but he did elevate this team elsewhere in a lot of areas. Those areas being rim pressure, playmaking, rebounding, depth, isolation ability, and just outright talent. There is something to be said for just having a lot of talent. That's not to suggest that fit does not matter, but it can overcome fit if you really just have a lot of talented players on your team. Even if the spacing gets awkward at times, and I imagine it will, and even very unfortunate times in the clutch, I think that trade-off is well worth the fact that there is no pair of on-ball playmakers in the league better than LeBron James and Russell Westbrook on the same team. When you have a not so great spaced offense, you need to be able to make more precise passes, and that's exactly what these two can do. Rim pressure. Even if shooting is a problem, facing an offense where you could at any given moment have one of LeBron James or Russell Westbrook charging at you towards the basket is a daunting task. Not to mention that your help defense at the rim could result in a pass to perhaps the greatest lob target in the history of the game. I think it's safe to say that even if you can sag off, you'll need a hell of a defense to slow this team down offensively, because you'll need crazy good rim protection and an ability to not fall victim to LeBron or Russ making a difficult pass. Like, having two slashers and playmakers of that caliber, in my opinion, pretty much negates the negative spacing. There's also just the outright creation of Westbrook. Sure, is his efficiency the best? Absolutely not. But having another guy you can rely on for a respectable 20 a game is a luxury this team did not have previous. This roster now has 3 guys who could go off for 40 on any given night. There's also the rebounding thing, because the Lakers are going to be running with Anthony Davis at center, at least in the biggest moments and in the playoffs, and that could result in a little bit worse rebounding because it won't be 2 big men in the game, but Russell Westbrook can negate that with his rebounding. Not having another center out there, because AD is a center, could lead to a slip in the rebounding department, but Russ is such a great rebounder, not just for a guard, but period, that I actually don't think they'll waver too much in that area. But really, there's one big reason why I think this move is great for the Lakers, and it's the reason why I'm calling this video like the hidden genius of the move, even though I'm not the first person to say this. But the reason this is a good move for the Lakers is it preserves LeBron James for the playoffs and really for the rest of his career in the regular season. I would be pretty surprised if we didn't see a very different version of LeBron next season, a version of LeBron who takes the most amount of catch and shoot threes in his career, a version of LeBron who averages less than 25 points for the first time since his rookie year, a LeBron James whose risk of getting hurt is significantly less so when he has such a smaller load to bear on the offensive end. We've seen LeBron actually get hurt for real a few times now in the past few years, when he previously had been an Iron Man, and with LeBron being 37 years old, doing what you can to preserve his body to get whatever there will be left out of him is important, and that is where Russell Westbrook comes in. Russ, during the regular season, can essentially take over those offensive responsibility while LeBron just coasts. And even come playoff time, LeBron won't have to push his body to the complete limit 24/7, especially in the earlier rounds. There were instances in round 1 versus the Suns where we expected LeBron to flip the switch, as we'd seen him do a million times in his career, and it just did not happen. Russ is someone who, for not most games, but maybe a few in the playoffs, can be the guy who carries his team, and that will just make LeBron more capable when his moment comes. Making life easier for LeBron and allowing him to coast to an even further extent than he had previous, to the point where you're probably going to extend his career, is significantly more valuable than like Buddy Hield's ability to hit a spot up 3-pointer, or fucking KCP for that matter. Now that said, the risk of this move is very evident. Russell Westbrook's contract just will not be able to be traded without any assets whatsoever, and at this point the Lakers don't have them. So the Lakers have to hope that I'm right and that this move will work out, but I'm pretty confident that I am, and that it will. Now you might have noticed that this video is a little bit different from my normal, regular, non-deep dive videos, and that's because I'm changing up the format and the editing style on these quite a bit. I'm going back to some more heavily scripted stuff and some more heavily edited stuff. This video is edited by me, but from here on out they're going to be edited by Rudy, hoping that he can replicate this style as much as he can and use this as like a baseline for it. But I wanted to talk about this at the very end here, because on top of the fact that the style of these videos is changing, because the quality is ramped up help, that means the quantity is going to go a little bit down. It's probably going to be more like 3 videos a week on average around here. So for that reason, I wanted to mention, as I do all the time, go subscribe to my second channel. I'm nearly at 70K subscribers. I'd appreciate you getting me to that milestone. But the reason I add this is that if you're someone who's not subscribed to that channel already, that is a place where you can get even more frequent content from me. So if you're a little bummed out about a little less frequency in content here, you're gonna get it over there. So yeah, that is it though. Hope you enjoyed this video and this change, what I'm gonna be doing going forward. So yeah, that is it. Goodbye.